Hey guys, it's Brett. Thank you for dropping by my channel. So I'm coming to you 2 days before the end of 2022 with a December wrap up. New location for me today. I'm away for the week. So welcome to my bedroom. All right, let's get into it. And by into it, I mean my 12 books that I read this month. I had a really great month of reading, very diverse, all kinds of stories and genres. Almost all of them were pretty successful in my eyes, so that was fantastic. I'm going to start with Celeste Ng's Our Missing Hearts. I really liked this book, and this was, for me personally, this was on my list of like my 10 runners up this year. The story set in a near future about a young boy growing up. His mother, who was a writer, has gone missing. And he sets out eventually to find her. His father was once a professor and now works as a librarian at the university. But Asian Americans are being targeted in this new United States. It's chilling, but I never felt like she slips into either melodrama or sentimentality, both of which would have been very easy. I thought it was a really well done book. Going back a little bit to last year, this was on my 10 before the end, which incidentally I'm not going to finish. I will finish at 7 before the end. I didn't get to them all. But Build Your House Around My Body by Violet Kupersmith. This I thought was a fascinating read, and I was so glad that I finally read it. It's set in 2 different time periods where 2 different girls in Saigon, in Vietnam, a Vietnamese girl, here, I'm going to read you this because it's easier than me trying to explain it. In 1986, the teenage daughter of a wealthy Vietnamese family loses her way in an abandoned rubber plantation while fleeing her angry father and is forever changed. In 2011, a young, unhappy Vietnamese American woman disappears from her new home in Saigon without a trace. So it is these 2 stories that eventually converge. It is so good. It is part ghost story, part mystery. I just found it fascinating, was really riveted by it. It's intricate, but not so heady that it's hard to follow. I really think it is just a great read. Pulling through. Slow Horses by Mick, Heron. So this we actually read in my real life book club. So someone chose this book, which I was really glad they did. I started to watch the series, and this has been made into a series on Apple TV, last year, and I only watched like 1 episode. I really liked it, and like everything else, I have like an attention span with television where I start something and then there's another show that pops up immediately, and I'm like, oh, that looks interesting, and I lose the first one. Happens all the time. So that's what happened with this. So when they said we were reading this, I was like, great. I loved this book. I've already bought the second one. For those of you who don't know, and this is a series, like a big fat hit in London, it's about a group of MI6 agents who are all disgraced for one reason or another. They've screwed up on the job. There's a variety of reasons. Anyway, they're all kind of collected and overseen by this man. And they assist on cases, but kind of behind the scenes. And so a man gets kidnapped and they get pulled into, it could be a larger international incident. So they get pulled into helping with it. And what happens, it's really good. What I saw, like I said, the series is great. The interesting thing was with our book club is not everybody is a big reader at the book club. I know, weird, but it's spouses, and so some spouses don't read, but those people watch the series. So we were also able to compare the similarities and the differences between the 2 mediums and what they did with the book in terms of taking it to the smaller screen, which was interesting. So, but if you are, Mick Heron is basically called like the new Jean Le Carré. And if you like his books and that kind of mystery, these are really smart, really funny group of characters. Great book. Can't wait to read the rest of the series. How Not to Drown in a Glass of Water by Angie Cruz. I just finished this. I did this on audio. This book has been long listed on the Aspen Words book list this year. And I'm reading through that whole long list. I thought this was so good. I will say this. I liked the book a lot. I don't know that I would have got the same kind of, had the same enthusiasm for it if I had just read it, but listening to the audio it's next level. The whole book is about a Dominican woman in her mid-50s who lives in Washington Heights during the Obama years, who loses her job. And so she is set up to have a series of job interviews with a job placement company. The whole book is her going into this job placement with this woman and telling her like about her week, the job she applied for or why she didn't apply for the job, what's going on in her life. It really is like a play. And I'm telling you, if you're an audiobook person, absolutely get this. But if you're not and have never tried an audiobook, I would strongly encourage you to try this just to see what an experience an audiobook can be like. Because I think people just think, I don't want to just listen to a book and drive around. I'm telling you, this particular one is fantastic. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. But like audio through the roof. Okay, They're Going to Love You by Meg Howrey. I had never even heard of this book. And someone, my friend Tim Talks Books, and Francie Comes Alive over on Instagram, both mentioned how wonderful it was, and I immediately got it. It's great. It is set in the 80s in New York during the AIDS crisis. It's about a young girl whose mother was a dancer with Balanchine. Her father was also a dancer, and she is now studying as a young girl to be a dancer. The story goes back and forth throughout time because in the present day, her father is dying and something has happened between she and her father that has led them to be estranged. And so through the course of the story, we get to know what happened, but also see her growing up and that her parents divorced when she was very young. Her father was actually gay and has a lover who is very integral to the story. It's kind of those three parental figures and this girl. It's beautifully written. If you're someone that's into dance at all, I would say like get this book yesterday because it is going to give you all the feels. It's messy, complicated, very just thought-provoking and really smart. A beautiful, beautiful, beautifully told story. Another book from the Aspen Words long list this year, The Last White Man by Mohsin Hamid. This was another one I ended up doing on audio. Audio is amazing because I find like I can knock, I could do double the books sometimes with audio because I'm in the car a lot and they're really helpful. Also, I've been getting stuff through Scribd, and for those of you who don't know, Scribd is a subscription-based company that has not only audiobooks, but also digital books as well, and a variety of other things I don't use pertaining to the written word, but I do use the audiobooks a lot because it's, quite frankly, it's cheaper than most of the other audio places. The selection is very limited, but there's always something I can find. And fantastically, fantastically. A lot of the Aspen Words titles are on there, so it's great. Anyway, this is a really interesting book. I really liked it. Reaction to this has been very mixed. He reads the book on tape, which I love because the book is almost a stream of consciousness in a way, but he reads it in almost a halting, almost emotionless affect, which really worked for me. And we're talking about, I speed up a little bit, so we're talking about like a 3-hour time listen. But the premise is about a man that wakes up one day who suddenly there's an affliction that starts, if we can even call it that starts to affect everyone, where it turns the entire white population black. And what happens in particular to this one man and his girlfriend and her family and his relationship with his father. It's totally fascinating. I was with it for the ride. Some people have said, oh, this has been done before. But my feeling about that is, I don't feel it's copying anything. It felt original to me, and I don't know, I was there with it. So a little back list. Ali Smith's Autumn. Ali Smith, this seasonal quartet, I have wanted to read for so long. And at the very start of the pandemic, I bought this gorgeous, beautiful, limited edition set of the quartet that was put out only in London. And they used David Hockney prints for the jacket sleeves. And they're all signed by her. And I was like, oh my God, I have to get them. Not even knowing if I would like the books. I was just a freak and feeling like I was, supporting authors during the pandemic. So I bought this. I finally read the first one. And I'm happy to say I really liked it. The story of this is about a relationship that develops between a young girl and an older man who lives across the street from her. Not a relationship like of a sexual nature, just a friendship that develops. It's really beautiful. It really kind of touches on passing and the passing of time and the moving into autumn and fall, and in the fall of someone's life. I really liked it. So I'm all this to say, I'm going to dive into winter either in January or February. And I'm getting through this quartet this year. But I'm sure there are plenty of you out there who have read these. I thought they were great. I thought it was great. A Quiet Life by Ethan Joella. I didn't read A Little Hope. A lot of people read it and loved it. I was really anxious to read this because I'd heard a lot of pre-publication buzz about it. I was kind of mixed on this, to be honest. It started, I really liked the beginning of it. First of all, I love the cover. It's a story of 3 different people who are dealing with particular tragedies in their life. One is a widower, an older man who's lost his wife, who has passed away. There is a young girl, a young woman, who his father was killed at a convenience store holdup. And then there is a young woman whose daughter has gone missing. Her young daughter has gone missing. Well, to be specific, he's been taken by her ex-husband. So the story is about these 3 people, and eventually their lives are going to converge in a manner. And I really liked the first 100 pages. I was completely with it. And to be honest, for me, it started to get a little twee, a little saccharine, and felt a little bit like a Lifetime movie. That's just my opinion. I know there are plenty of people who've loved this. I don't know what I was expecting. It just felt a little on the nose to me. But what I will say on a positive, it feels like a holiday book. And so if you're still in the holiday spirit, you may want to try it. Okay, Foster by Claire Keegan. I'm now convinced after reading Small Things Like These and this, that this woman is truly just a master of the short story. I mean, she says so much with so little, and it's incredible. I loved Small Things Like These, and speaking of like holiday books, that is like, to me, like a perfect holiday book. Foster is about a young girl who's taken to live with a family. She's not from a very well-off family, and there are a lot of kids, and her mother is about to give birth to another child. So for a temporary time, she goes to live with this family, and it's what happens. And they're dealing with their own kind of issue from the past, but also how this girl starts to be found and be seen. It's so beautiful, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a little heartbreaking in where it lands. That's all I'm gonna say. But it's a great book. You can literally read this in 30 minutes. It's really wonderful. Speaking of heartbreaking, sorry, but Rob Delaney, A Heart That Works. Rob Delaney is an actor. He stars in a Amazon series called Catastrophe, which he co-created. And he'll be coming out in a new series for Apple called Bad Monkey, that's based on the Carl Hiaasen novels. Anyway, Rob wrote this book about his son who, when he was born, had a massive brain tumor and ultimately had cancer and passed away at the age of 4. And this is his recounting of that. It's rough. It's rough. It ultimately, it's not maudlin, and he doesn't wallow in anything, but his pain and emotions, it's all still, as you would expect, raw. That said, I found it a really compelling read, despite the fact that it's horribly sad. So, all right, moving on in 180 degrees in the other direction, Sapphire Sunset by C. Travis Wright, also known as Christopher Rice. This is a series. This is the first in a series set at Sapphire Cove, which is like, imagine, I said, it's like the gay White Lotus, but instead of someone dying, somebody falls in love. So it's about this is the first one in the series. This follows a distinguished member of the Marine Corps who goes to work as a bodyguard at this exclusive hotel because he's basically, his father, he's taking care of his father who had some physical problems. But suddenly he meets the son of the owner of the hotel, the family who owns this very posh resort, who's also gay and hot, and sparks fly. And so romance begins, but now without a bit of conflict that has to be in there. So this is totally fun. It's, I'm not a romance person normally. I think I could count on one hand the amount that I read, but I actually really enjoyed this. There's a third one that's coming out, but what he does is he doesn't focus on the same people. He picks another story or another person either at the hotel or surrounding it. And that's kind of how he's developing the series. So, and then finally, oh my God, Babble Babel. I always call it Babble Babel, by R.F. Kuang. This is part of the HarperCollins strike. So, and what HarperCollins did not want is people to write reviews of the books to help be supportive of the workers who are trying to get a better wage. Here's what I'll say about it. I really loved this book. It took a while to get into. It's extremely dense. It was honestly one of the most ambitious books I read this year. And I think in a lot of ways, she really hits it home. There were moments when I felt like I was kind of wallowing / drowning in how brilliant she is, and she is brilliant. She was herself an Oxford scholar. This is about a half Chinese, half white young man whose mother dies in the very beginning of the book and is saved by a professor from Oxford University who raises him, and he goes into the school of Babel, which is obviously the language school of Oxford in this world. So his friends are, for the most part, also some form of minority, racial minority, save for one. She's covering massive themes here. And I think a lot of people who had trouble with the book, if they did have trouble with the book, was in the first part, which is a lot about words and language and etymology. There's a lot of footnotes. I listened to a lot of this also on audio, which was brilliant. And the guy who read it was fantastic. And the woman who read the footnotes, it was very seamless. So it was very easy to kind of keep momentum going and not get mired down in them. But I know a lot of people reading them were like, all of these footnotes. So, it is a dense book, but it gets to a point around the halfway point when it really, really, really takes off. It's pretty fantastic. So the last thing I did not finish, though it will be my first book of January, and this comes out January 3rd, is The New Life by Tom Crew. I am loving this book, and thank you to Scribner for the gifted copy. It is set in London in the summer of 1894. Walt Whitman has published his Leaves of Grass. There are two separate stories here that kind of come together. One is of a man who is married with 3 daughters, who is gay and has struggled with it for years. And his wife knows. And what happens when he meets a rather fetching young man, and what that does to that relationship, meaning with his family. And on the other side of it is a man who is taking a very modern approach to living and marries a woman. He is a virgin and marries a woman. There's no real sexual attraction between them, and they live very separate lives, but they are companions of a sort. And he is trying to figure out if this is going to work for him ultimately. The two men come together because both are scholars, and they begin to write a paper about inverts, which are what was termed homosexuals, a term for homosexuals at the time. It is so good and it's so fascinating. And I'm not going to lie, there's times when I feel straight up like a dummy reading it. Tom Crew, listen to this, was born in Middleborough in 1989. He has a PhD in 19th century British history from the University of Cambridge. He's been an editor at the London Review of Books, which he's contributed more than 30 essays on politics, art, history, and fiction. This is his first novel. Well, it's terrific. So I was hoping I would finish it before the end of the year, but I don't think it's going to happen because there's too much going on. So anyway, but just want to give you the heads up. Great book, The New Life by Tom Crew, coming out. So that's it. Happy New Year to all of you. I hope 2023 is an incredible year, not just for your reading pleasure, but personally, professionally, all the things that you're invested in, all the things that you want to happen come true. But yeah, and also, hey, let's just say, I hope you read incredible books. And I wanted to say, as someone who's just started on this platform this year, you've all been very kind. I so appreciate it. If you've made it this far, I want to offer you $10,000. I'm kidding. But happiest new year, and I will see you all in 2023.